Hello and good evening, everyone. Okay. Sabi ni Joy, what is the masterclass of Sir Ian? So tonight, Joy, ibibigay sa atin ni Sir Ian yung top 5 recommended watercolor paints niya. Okay, so for everyone, I would like to introduce our guest for tonight. So I know some of you already know him, but to our first time viewers, our guest for tonight is none other than Raven Fox 13 or Sir Ian as we call him. So bigyan ko lang kayo ng konting background with Sir Ian. Nag-watercolor na siya for 20 years and has been teaching uh, all over the world, 'di ba? Nag-start siya mag-teach ng like 15 to 17 years ago. Ayan. So right now, nagtuturo pa din siya. And I'm sure marami siyang maituturo sa mga or marami kayong knowledge na makukuha sa ating guest for tonight. So hindi ko na to papahabain kasi alam ko naman you guys are so excited. So hello and good evening to you, Sir Ian. Are you ready? Yan. So sir, we are all set. Are you ready? Maybe we can start na. Ano ba yung mga mare-recommend mo na mga watercolor sa ating mga watercolor artists? Be it like beginner ba sila or kung meron man silang experience na sa watercolor?
Okay, so for tonight we have a set of different kinds of watercolors that is good for those people who are just beginning, yung gusto nilang mag-start from their watercolor journey, and then dun sa mga experience or example, mga crafters. So maraming kasing gamit yung watercolor as an art tool. It can be used for coloring, it can be used for artworks itself na yun mismo yung gagamitin mo for everything. Some people use it for mixed media, some people use it for illustration, for manga, and some people use it for uh, still life, botanical artworks. So iba-iba siya. Maraming pwedeng paggamitan. Some people use it for as a hobby, tool for hobby. Some people use it for professional work. So yung range ng pwede yung gawin with watercolors would be depending on what kind of artist, crafter, student, beginner, or professional kayo. And there would be different kinds of watercolors for every single individual. Okay? So for tonight, we'll be starting with the Winsor and Newton watercolor. So these are 5 of my recommendations if you're starting. Of course, I have the biggest sets probably na meron, pero we'll start with one by one with some of the recommendations that I would suggest if you're starting. If you are just new to watercoloring, one of the brands that I trusted since I started would be Winsor and Newton. Winsor and Newton is a known brand for creating quality art materials. And then they have this line. It's called yung Cotman watercolors. So I have here yung biggest set ng Cotman. Ayan siya. So I usually keep everything minsan sa box pa. Ayan. Ayan siya. I already have smaller sets of these. Tapos some of my alam mo yun, mga pamangkin saka they ina-arbor nila and makikita niyo siya. Usually yung mga ganitong set, hindi ko siya ginagamit yung cover. Hindi ko ginagamit ito kasi maganda kasi ditanggal to lahat. This one. So this is most of the colors that are available with Winsor and Newton Cotman. Cotman series is a student grade na watercolor. Ito, good for starting kasi they have beautiful pigments which are, I'll show you. I have kasi yung swatch for that. So ang swatch niyan ay nandito. When I say swatch, if you are using watercolors, I highly suggest that you swatch all of your paints. Pag sinabing swatching, dapat i-layout nyo siya sa papel. Kasi whenever you swatch watercolors, you'll realize the real colors of the sets that you have. Ito yung swatch niya. Ayan. So I usually have swatch na naka-gradation. So from dark or mas pigmented up to a part na mas transparent siya. Watercolors are naturally transparent or translucent. But some watercolor paints are also opaque or semi-opaque depending on the pigment used in the watercolor. Usual watercolors are made with pigment. Some watercolor brands are actually made with a mixture of dyes and pigment. Pero more than often, magaganda yung made with pigment kasi mas maganda yung kinakalabasan ng kulay. Though some paints naman, pag ginamitan ng dye, mas matitingkad yung kulay nila. So this is the Winsor & Newton Cotman 45 color set. As you can see, there's a good and healthy assortments of yellows, oranges, different reds with warm and cool reds. You have beautiful purples right here, several kinds of blues and greens, and then beautiful earth tone neutral sets. What I do when I usually do yung mga ganito na swatches is para matandaan ko siya. Kasi before, hindi ko talaga, akala ko kaya kong tandaan. So after a while, marirealize hindi nyo siya kayang tandaan lahat. So what you do, kasi sometimes when you get this one for example, when you get this, it would have this beautiful na nakasulat sa label. So you'll have yung name niya, usually in Spanish, in English, nandyan siya lahat. Tapos you have yung mga information, especially with this brand, which I really like kasi nakasulat ko ano yung pigment na ginamit, kung saan siya gawa, tapos kung anong gaano ka light fast yung paint, kung matagal ba siyang mag-stay dun sa paper, if it's good. Plus, you when you do that, I transfer most of the details dun sa swatch here. Para pag ginagamit ko siya, what really happens here is bubuksan ko lang tong swatch book ko, tapos kukuha na lang ako doon. Sabi ko, ay, ito yung kailangan kong kulay. So, ito siya. Bibilangan mo na siya. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So, ito yun. Di ba mas madali siya? Kasi, yung kulay ng watercolor, it changes pagbasa sa katuyo. Let's say, for example, this one. Who would have thought na ito pala, this one in particular, ito yung pang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ito pala siya pagbasa siya. Diba? So, yung shift ng kulay na yun, mas maiintindihan nyo yung set na meron kayo if you have these. Or let's say, for example, this one. Who would have thought na ito pala ay green kung nakaganyan lang siya? Tapos it's a very good and bright viridian green here. Lalo na to, pag tinignan nyo to, kung ito, on a certain view, this particular color, this one, for example, mukha siyang parang kadiri na yun. Kadiri yung tawag yan. Mukha siyang parang dirty na yellow. You wouldn't know na, ganun pala yung kulay niya pag ginamit nyo. It's a very bright, it's a gamboge yellow. Ayan, gamboge. Parang arty ng pangalan no gamboge. I'll just tell as a small thing about it. Gamboge is actually, na-produce siya ng Winsor & Newton nung nagpunta sila dito sa Southeast Asia. And then one time, they went to Cambodia. Sa Cambodia, they found this pigment. So yung pigment ng gamboge, it's actually a mispronounced Cambodia. Kaya gamboge, Cambodia. It's actually Cambodia yellow, parang ganon. Pero hindi nila ma-pronounce yung Cambodia at that time. Kasi mga British English sila nung time na yon. So it became yellow gamboge. Ganon din nangyayari. So yung, tapos mahilig ako sa ganyan, malaman mo. Kasi iba parang, di ba yung pangalan parang nakakalito. Pag gumagamit ka kasi ng regular watercolor, yung mga pangalan usual lang. Ayan. When you look at this, sobrang happy siya. And I'm not saying na you need to get itong isang buo. Of course, if you can, syempre mapapasaya kayo nito. Plus yung lalagyan niya sobrang nakaka-happy talaga. And ditanggal lahat kasi itong mga to. So, pwede nyo pagpalit-palitin, pwede nyo ilipat-lipat kung paano nyo siya gustong gamitin. And if you're getting a single set, pwede nyo siyang bili ng isa-isa actually per pan. So kung naubos nyo yung halimbawa ako, favorite ko kasi ultramarine blue. It's one of my favorite blues. Ang suggested ko, you can get these sets of colors, which you can get dun sa kanilang smaller sets of Cotman. And those sets, you can get sa Artillery Philippines. So parang handy siya. Almost like, lang ito, 1/3 of this. I have that before. Tapos nung na-realize nung ibang friends ko na meron ako, minsan aarboran ako ng watercolor. So ayun, na-arbor siya minsan. Or minsan since meron na nga ako nung malaki, I just give away yung maliit. So ayan siya. So you just need a good sample of the 12. So you'll get to see that when you look at the Artillery Philippines website. Tapos may kasama na siya usually na brush. So it's a travel or pocket set that you can bring, especially if you're doing plein air. Pag sinabi plein air, you're painting or drawing on the spot. Yung parang pag nag-travel ka, instead of just taking pictures, you stay there, you observe, you enjoy the view, and then you paint the view. Ayan siya. So sometimes, ayan, loose floral sa gilid. So these are some of my usual recommendation for Winsor & Newton na watercolor, Cotman. Dito sa baba naman yung kanyang neutral ko na set na recommended. I really like burnt sienna. I don't know why. I love burnt sienna, indigo, and burnt umber. Pwede namang wala sila pero it's a good palette na color. And of course, if gusto nyo nang mag-paint ng, kunyari, sanay na kayo and so on, there's also a Winsor & Newton professional set. This one. Of course, yung Winsor & Newton na yun, it comes in different forms. So this is a half pan set, yung kaninang pinakita ko sa inyo. This is the half pan set. Pag sinabing half pan, kasi ito, kalahati lang to ng isang pan. So dalawang size nito is a full pan. Meron sila nun pero bihira kasi yung bumibili ng full pan. Kasi yung iba, gusto nila mas maraming kulay na dala kaysa yung mas malalaking sets ng colors yung dala nila. So sometimes you have yung ganito. It's the same thing, kaya lang naka-tube siya. This one is Cotman din, pero in tube form. It's the same, magkaiba lang yung form. Para siyang yung solid liquid gas na matter. Iba-iba lang yung form. This is mas fluid siya. Ito solid siya. Okay? It's the same. It depends on how you work with. And then their professional watercolor range naman usually comes in silver. Ayan, makita nyo medyo paubos na siya. Kasi ito talaga yung madalas kong gamitin, especially dati. Winsor & Newton. Kasi siya yung available, especially nung nagsa-start pa ako. Tapos, pag tinanong nyo naman, ay, ang mahal pala nung paint pag ano siya, professional siya usually, medyo mahal siya. Watercolor is one of the most economical na paint. You just need to invest for one time, and then marirealize nyo, you just need water, tas mahirap siyang ubusin. Kahit madalas kayo magpinta. Ang mauubos lang talaga dyan yung madalas nyong gamitin. And then you'll see here, it's the same, which I really love pag ano siya, pag professional grade yung watercolor nyo, nakasulat lahat yung details, permanence, light fast, kung staining siya, non-staining, all of the information in a very small label, which I really enjoy. If it's not available naman dun information dun sa mismong set nyo, usually just go to their website and all of the information are there. It's a mixture of different series. If you look at these comparison, so these are both Winsor & Newton. This one is Cotman, this one is professional. You will see na parang meron counterpart minsan yung kulay sa professional doon sa Cotman. Na halos magkapareho siya. Ang pinagkaiba lang is yung name ng pigment na ginamit. Mostly pag professional siya, they use single pigments or yung mas mahal na pigments in comparison doon sa Cotman watercolors to make it available or para doon sa mga studio artists or dun sa mga crafters, mas mura siya ng konti yung isang line. Pero all in all, usually you trust the brand that makes yung paint. So this is one of my favorite Western brand ng paint, Winsor & Newton. So let's see an example of what I have created using this. So ito yung isa. This is done sa class ko before. This one. This was done in one of my painting class. So it's a view, may texture, may wet on wet, sama-sama siya lahat. I keep several kinds of journals. I like yung mga ganyan, yung parang medyo fantasy thing, colors, tapos may backgrounds, everything. I want things na yung pag nag-paint ka, hindi lahat controlled mo. There are parts that you control like this one. There are parts that are out of your control, which is what really happens when you look at the sky na hindi mo naman talaga siya maintindihan minsan, pero it just makes you feel very calm. Ganun. Yan. Usually, ganyan yung colors. May bright, may dark. It's also dependent on what kind of watercolor user you are. So if you want to start your watercolor journey, you can get the 12 colors, and it's okay because you can mix and match all of those colors to create beautiful tones. Ingat lang kayo pag nagmi-mix kayo kasi pag magkakatabi kasi sa pan, minsan na slip nyo, minsan lalo yung nagpe-paint kayo, mapupunta siya dun sa ibang kulay. Especially yung mga yellows, you be careful with the yellows kasi yun usually yung nadudumihan. Pero pwede nyo namang linisin din yun kaagad. Example, this one din. Ito pa. This one, ayan. I also paint. This one is, I did this also in a class. Happy lang kami for kid. So this is using these colors lang sa baba. Para siyang malaking Polaroid thing. Ayan, diba? May happy, may tight watercoloring dun sa gitna, and then you have medyo loose dun sa likod. So these are some of the things that I do with my students usually sa class when we paint. Ayan. Tapos minsan very minimal din yung painting like this one. So this is just two colors. This is orange and purple together. So you can create many things with just two colors of watercolor. This is an exercise of negative painting and minimal na colors. So these are some of the things that we do on my art workshops. Kasi I have been teaching for a long time. And believe it or not, hindi rin ako sobrang, dati feeling ko hindi ako happy, hindi ako confident sa watercolors. Sa totoo lang. Feeling ko after teaching it for a while, you get to love the medium more.